Yeah, to build on what Kyle was saying here, ultimately what my vision for downtown is that we are a top 20 in the country in terms of vibrancy and the density of a residential and the experiences you're going through at the first floor level of these buildings. And I think about this on three layers of experience for downtown. So first layer is if you come down on a random day with no events happening, does it meet your needs? And is it exciting for you? So, do you have enough shops and restaurants and attractions that appeal to you as an adult, as a family member, as a professional? The second layer of it is what are the repeated, consistent events that happen on a weekly or monthly basis that bring you back over and over again, predictably? And then the third layer of it is what are the marquee, events and experiences that introduce you to the district for the first time, but then you create relationships through these layers. This first layer, I think, is the promised land, that we feel that there's enough density of residential and first ground floor experiences going through it to go along with, the office experience on the upper floors, that it just feels 24/7 vibrant district. And as Kyle said, like this takes acting with urgency, but also a longer view than, making this happen in the next year or two. It's like we've got to make sure that we've got cohesive plan for this. This middle layer here, I think, I agree absolutely with Kyle on this, is how do we ensure that we are as tuned in as possible to the different audience segments that already interact with downtown and that we want to interact more with downtown, have a clear picture of what their needs are, and are delivering experiences that makes them want to be down there because it appeals to those needs. And so those small and medium-sized repeated events are some of the fastest ways that we can get to that. And if we set it up in ways where you're coming back every month, not just a one-time experience, that's where you start seeing greater activity in there, and it makes it that much easier to justify the investments in this gold layer over here. Historically, I think there were times where we had a lot of some of these marquee events here, and we still have them in different ways, whether it's coming out of the theater district, or we're talking about stuff out of the, sporting events. But there's a risk in this that if you don't have these two layers well established, that you have one-off interactions with folks. They come down for one thing, but then they'll come back and become ingrained into the district. And so this is a lot in the short term. Middle layer here really is, buy time to build up more of this base layer at the bottom, and constantly look for those great opportunities that have the marquee things to introduce people to those.
Which is great. And I think, Peter and Kyle, I think probably every roundtable we have sat in on economic development or entrepreneurship, the first problem everyone points to is talent attraction. And, for Lynn, like when a city's actively trying to attract and retain talent, and if Pivot was deployed here, what does success look like for a company that's able to attract people here and utilize your platform? And what would sort of out of the things Kyle and Peter were talking about is the long-term sort of vision that has to happen. How does that help when you're sort of selling the city on behalf of a company too, saying like, you're going to enjoy living here and we have a vibrant mix of activities for you to do? Because 9 to 5 sounds like a lot of your time, but there's a lot of time outside of that too that we have to sell people on, and getting them ingrained into a city and the community sort of right away. It can't happen 6 months after they get here or a year from now that they find their favorite coffee shop, because they were sort of just keep going to Starbucks every time because I felt like that was the only option.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think the cities that we've found to be the most successful understand their strengths and understand their weaknesses. And typically the companies know this as well. So I'll give you an example from the like the remote work play. I know that West Virginia did something very similar to Tulsa, and they noticed that a lot of people that really loved West Virginia were mountain bikers. And so instead of offering $10,000, they offered a smaller cash incentive with mountain bikes because they knew that those were the ones that would attract them there and they would be more likely to find their community and stay. And so for Buffalo, right, it's really about understanding what are the things that people love about it, right? You mentioned affordability. You mentioned all of the great things that are, coming to downtown. Those stories are really important. Those attributes are really important. And getting that in front of the employees before they decide to move, and if they, or right after they decide to move, is absolutely pivotal, because they need to be able to manage their expectations. And then the next piece in which we help with is identifying what's important to you. So, you know, do you have kids, right? Are you really interested in being in a community where you speak, similar language? Are you a soccer fan, right? All those things, we can connect you with someone that has that local knowledge or has done that in the past, and they can embed you into those areas of Buffalo and the community that will make them want to stay. So I think it's the combination of that three-tier approach that really leads to talent attraction, awareness, getting embedded into the community, and then retention.
Which is great. And so, Lynn, I'm going to put you on the spot here because, I'm going to have you help us sell the city. You've built a company that helps people land in new cities. And what's the pitch that you would make to a relocated employee who just arrived here and isn't maybe totally sold yet?